decrease it as you need. Because if you start with a smaller image and you increase its size, you lose a lot of the details. Because basically how that works is it takes, say you have an image that's 256 by 256 and you change the image size to 1024 by 1024, how that works is it's spreading those pixels out, and then it's just filling in the blank with basically an algorithm that's created in the software, and it takes those two values and just averages it for information in between, and you end up getting different data than you actually created originally, and the results aren't very good. So when you start with a larger image and you downscale it, you're removing pixels, and that's not a really great practice either, but it's much better than enlarging your images. So starting off with a larger size and then being able to decrease that size if needed, that's from what all the work I've done, that seems to be the best practice on it. And like I said, for an example of why you want to do that, specular maps and, well, bumps you want to have pretty high resolution, but spec maps you don't really need that high of resolution. And the specular maps are, like I was talking about, for the shininess properties of the material. And we'll get into that a little bit as well. And another thing with creating a new file is you want to kind of get a standardized format for naming. And the plus sign, of course, which is one of the tricks that Will taught me. I use it all the time. Plus sign at the beginning, name of the material that you're creating. And one thing you'll notice when you start creating libraries and libraries of materials, you're going to get a lot of brick walls. So there's going to be 65 different types of brick walls, or floors, or whatever the case may be. So you usually want to put a number at the end of it, and then underscore, and then what the type of texture map is. So in this case, it's a color, and that's going to be for your diffuse color channel. Same for the bump, but it's going to be this exact same name, but with underscore bump. And the same for a specular, do the same deal, but underscore spec. And that just keeps everything clean, makes it easier to work with, and you'll know, okay, well, brick wall 01, it's also got a bump and a spec, or maybe it doesn't, but you'll know by it having the exact same name. So that's one of the main things here. And then also creating an organized texture library. I'll actually touch on that in just a second, because I'm going to go ahead and do that process of starting a new file. Okay, so basically file, new, and you can name it whatever you like, because this is the Photoshop file you're creating right now. You're not creating your final image, you're just creating basically your workspace file, which is a Photoshop. So we're going to name this, brick text 01, put a plus at the beginning, and you want to look at size based on pixels. A lot of times it defaults to inches. You want to make sure this is set to pixels, and we'll start at 1024. Oops, 1024 by 1024. And what happens is it creates a new file, and it's got a white background, and this is basically our canvas that we're going to work with. Now, getting your textures to come out at exactly those dimensions, like I say, it can be tough, and more than likely in this example we're probably not going to get it exactly there, but it's just a matter of spending a little bit more time to tweak it. And this is the thing where we really get to get creative, because there's no hard and fast rule about creating these textures. There are tools and techniques to help you get there, but there's no right and wrong way, so we can pretty much do whatever we want to get our final result. So starting with this canvas, it gives us a good jumping off point. And before I move into the actual creation, I think I've got a couple questions here. Let me touch on those really quick. Okay. This one is from. Okay. Do you know when session 1 will be accessible on the Will to Play site? I'm not sure. I actually was just checking that.
I'm working on it. And by the way, session 2 is now up there. So if you want to download the lecture notes for this class or the PowerPoint for this class, if you're here, just be aware you can jump on to the site right now. You can look at them. You can grab them. I'm sorry that I have not gotten a chance to put session 1 up. It will be there by the end of the week for sure. Session 1, 2, 3, all of them will be done by the end of the week. It's just been one of those things.
All right. Let's see. I was playing around with color on objects. I downloaded a lorry from Revit City. When I tried to color it, hold on one second. When I tried to color it, the object next to it became the color as the lorry. Please help. Okay. You know what? Actually, when we get to the end, we'll do Q&A. I'll unmute you and I'll have you run through that question again. This is from Martin. Oh yeah, we'll do that at the end of the session. Why are we adding a plus sign at the beginning of the file name? Okay, that's a really good question. It's there's two reasons why, and I apologize for not explaining that when I was talking about it. But basically, by putting the plus sign, the first thing that happens is when you open up a file that has, or a folder that has that file in it, it comes automatically to the very top of the list. Anything with a plus sign comes automatically to the top of the list. And the other reason why is it gives you an idea to know what you've created and what is something that came out of the package originally. So for example, when I'm doing my texturing and material stuff in Revit, I like to, any material that I create, I like to try to use all my own materials for the scene. And I create the name with a plus sign at the beginning so I know that it's something that I've created myself that didn't come in Revit when I bought it. So that way you know it's got all the settings that you want, things of that nature. But it's those two reasons make it really valuable tool, because you know what's yours and what's not, basically, and it also comes to the top of the list. So those are the two reasons there. And okay, that's it for the questions for the time being. We got 2 hands raised. Let's see what we got here. Okay, Dory, I'm going to unmute you really quick. Dory? Dory, you have your hand raised. Can you, is your mic working? No? Okay. If that's not working, you can go ahead and type in a question, but I'm gonna go ahead and mute you again. Another hand. Let's see, Tom, I'm gonna unmute you.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Tom, yeah, I can hear you.
Good. At this point in the creation of your file, you didn't modify the pixels per inch. Does that matter?
That's actually a really good question. It's for anything that's not print work, it's basically going to be screen resolution, which is 72 pixels per inch. I believe it's 72. Yeah, double check here. Image size, sorry about that. 96, it's 72 is the standard screen resolution. So unless it's going to be print work, that setting doesn't really matter. For anything we're going to be doing render-wise, it's going to be materials. It's all the same, because when you adjust this, it changes your pixel dimensions if constrained proportions and resample images on. So that's not something we really have to worry about. If you're going to be doing print work, the things you'll want to change that for are your final outputted image, and that can be done in the actual output of the renderer, where you can change that resolution. But for anything texture-wise, you can just leave it as is.